says.
I enjoyed your music.
Natasha, how are you? I've missed your beautiful dancing steps.
I'm missing all the beautiful dancing we all do together.
Yeah. Yes. Hi, Z. Hi, how did you?
Yes, good morning. I love your system.
I don't see always.
Yes, it's already 2 minutes after 10 a.m. here.
Okay.
Can we give the participants a grace of 5 minutes before we start? Is that acceptable to all of us?
Mama?
Yes, it is acceptable. The more the merrier.
Okay.
Hello, Jared. Raphael, hello.
Natasha, you should
Hello,
welcome
Natasha. How are you?
You should welcome Jared to a factorial dance.
Yes, I mean when Edwin is playing music that's lit, we have to dance. Jared, you don't know that yet, but we like to dance. Yeah, we don't just pedal, we dance as well.
Yeah.
I didn't know that music. Where is that Musazi music?
Where would this be? Muzazi? What did you say?
Yes, that's South African music. Mm-hmm.
The table is set.
And you know,
welcome.
Natasha, because this is innovative assessment, so we can dance, and the first exercise would be to assess us.
Natasha, do you know this one?
Africa, sing now, Africa, sing loud, sing to the people.
Yes, so.
Will ring the bells when you come back? Will it beat the drums when you come back? Will it ring the bells when you come back? Will it beat the drums when you come back? Our lost African music will turn into the music of people. Here's the people's music, by the people's culture, and I'll be the one who'll climb up the mountain, reaching for the top of our Africa days. Africa sing, Africa sing, Africa sing, Africa sing, sing, sing Africa, sing, sing Africa, sing, sing Africa, sing, sing Africa. My boo, yeah, Africa.
That was nice.
That was so nice. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to this session. I'm giving it over to our innovative assessment team.
Can we start?
Yes, Nidhi.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the research person, I want to welcome all of us to the live section on innovative assessment.
Nidhi, your audio.
I want to appreciate you all for the various engagement. We noticed that you have been engaging, you have been sharing your observations, you have been commenting, you have extensively been involved in the elements.
Didi?
You would have seen the names of the various resource persons on the facilitators on the
Didi?
dashboard. And
Didi, can you hear me?
Some of them have sent you mails as mentor-mentee relationship. So you have been interacting with them.
Can you hear me?
Can we see the slide?
Can you hear me?
I don't think she can hear you. She can hear you.
Didi, can you hear me?
I'm surprised.
Type a message on the chat.
You might see that.
Looks like we've lost Ndidi. Oh God.
Okay, I'll step in for her.
Please, Simon.
Okay. Yes, colleagues, Ndidi unfortunately looks like had internet and microphone issues as well. So, but I could hear what she was saying, it's only that it was not as clear enough. So welcome to this innovative assessment session. It's the last of the 3 modules of the innovative assessment of the PedaL training.
Breakout sections.
Buki, perhaps you can call Didi and tell her to stop.
Back from the breakout.
Didi, please call Buki, please call Didi and tell her to stop so that Simon takes over.
Okay, let me also just do something here.
Sorry about the interruption in the connectivity.
Okay, so so as I was saying, so we are going to, this is the schedule for the today. So we begin with, I'll take the first 5 minutes or less to just, take you through the training deliverables that you already know and talk about your learning journey. And then I'll invite Raphael and Betty to take us through a presentation on innovative assessment. And then we'll have around 50 minutes of breakout sessions with peer resource persons. We'll have 10 groups, and then we'll have 10 minutes of a break. And then we'll come back and report back in the plenary. Each group will have 3 minutes or less to do report back from the groups. And then we'll have an opportunity to just share our aha moments and also any clarifications that you need, questions that you have, anything that you've learned from this group. We'll have that for 20 minutes and will be moderated by Dr. Bossi. And then we'll invite Esther to conclude. So we hope that you have had a very interesting learning journey with us. And so the next slide just talks about where we came from, where we've come from, and where we're going to. So remember, this training is organized in 3 modules. You already know that. We started with course design, we went to facilitation, and now we are on innovative assessment. And we have had a mix of methods, a blend of asynchronous and synchronous sessions. Asynchronous meaning that you follow activities at your own pace, at your own time, within a period of that 1 week. And then synchronous is like now, where we meet at the same at the same time in different locations to share experiences, to talk about what we've learned, and also to discuss. And this training aims to meet you at your own entry level. This means that some of you are very advanced in what you're doing, but there is always something for you. You cannot come and just get out with nothing. And thus some of you also come in with no experience at all, and by the time you're getting out, you have a lot. So whether you're experienced or not in different areas, there is always be something new for you. So the next slide is about your journey. You started with the pre-training. We started with the pre-training. Where you started your course design template, and you also started your e-portfolio. And then you submitted that course design template in the design course. And then also you had an opportunity to design a course on your learning management system. And I just want to let you know that this is a continuous process. So you began that course. You can also continue building on it. Even now, we are talking about innovative assessment, talking about journals, we're talking about wikis. Can you continue even working on that course on your own learning management system and add some of these elements? Then you submitted a session plan. Now from the course design template, our course outline, we asked you now to do a smaller session plan, and you submitted. We gave you some comments on it. And during the first live session last week, we talked about those session plans. And then it was very interesting last week to attend your micro teaching sessions and learning from different areas, just you experimenting innovative methods in a very safe space. And then during this week, during this module, we are submitting the link to our e-portfolio, which we began in the pre-training. And so it will be very exciting today to talk about your e-portfolios, and we'll have an opportunity to look at them during the breakout groups, and also to talk about rubrics, which we had an assignment on the rubrics. And during the breakout groups also, we'll have an opportunity to develop a rubric that assesses the e-portfolio. Now, from here, from tomorrow, you will have the advanced session available on your dashboard. This is an optional but very highly recommended course. It basically contains material that we are not able to fit within these 3 weeks, and so to enable you to deepen and to widen areas of the course design, course facilitation, innovative assessment. And then from here, of course, we are going to implement. We are going to try out these pedagogies, these methodologies, these strategies with our students, in our classroom, in the natural environment. And we hope that you'll continue reflecting on what you find, what your journey is, and the new discoveries that you make, what works, what does not work, what works when, how, in your e-portfolio that you are submitting. So you can continue building the e-portfolio, adding more content, and just clicking on publish. You don't need to submit the link again. Just submit the link once, and then you go back to the e-portfolio and you update. So you continue. The e-portfolio is it's a growing document. It's a living document. So you keep on just adding content on it throughout the year. Now, two things, and just before that, two things. One is that during the closing ceremony, which is coming up, you will be sent a case study, which you need to read. We'll have a very exciting moment during the closing ceremony. There'll be a case that you'll need to engage with. So it's important that you engage with that case before you read it, and you engage with the question. There'll also be another separate sheet that Edwin will send you, which will have the question. So it's important you read the case, you engage. It's normally one of the most exciting sessions of this training. That is one. Two, you are welcome also to share your observations, your comments, your questions in the chat. Now, the objective of this session, the purpose of this session is to provide you an opportunity to share your experiences and learning outcomes from the innovative assessment module, which is available, which you have been engaging with the learning management system. So it's about experience sharing. You may be doing some things already in your class that are very exciting. It's a moment also for us to learn from you. You may be getting some things that are new to you. It's also an important moment to let us know what you are learning. And then also to deepen your own learning through practice. So here, remember, it's a very, it's about learning. It's about getting something new. It's about moving from the known to unknown, but also from known to something that is beyond that what we didn't know before. So it's about practice. It's about trying out things. It's about trying out things in a safe space with our colleagues and with our peers. And now I invite my colleague Betty and Raphael to take us through the next presentation.
Thank you, Simon. Colleagues, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming this far. Congratulations for going through the first two modules, and of course, the third one we are about to end it. We're going to go through 3 key learning outcomes that we expect you to be able to do by the end of this session. And the first one is, of course, explaining advantages and disadvantages of the different tools for assessing synchronous learning. Second one is using appropriate computer-aided tools to assess asynchronous learning. And then thirdly, designing a rubric for formative assessment. So those are the 3 learning outcomes that we hope by the end of this session, you should be able to do them. Next slide. So colleagues, I have been reading through the posts that you've been sending, and go back, and you recognize, if you actually had time to read the posts that have been sent, you realize that many of our institutions, we still actually have traditional mode of assessment. And yet we know that traditional mode of assessment is designed mainly to identify acquisitions of content, ability to demonstrate that acquisition as well. And usually depends on one type of assignment or very few assignments. And sometimes we give those assignments at the beginning, maybe say of the semester, and we don't even mark it, and we give them feedback at the end when they're doing exams. And that defeats the purpose of what we are trying to emphasize in innovative assessment. And it's mainly summative and written. And it tends to focus on one type of answer because we phrase it in such a way that learners are boxed to answer in a certain way and not in any other way. And yet we went through very important content during the design. For example, during the design session, we talked about gender and inclusivity. How do you ensure gender and inclusivity? We also talk about the different types of knowledge, the dimension of knowledge during the design course. We talked about factual knowledge, we talked about conceptual knowledge, we talked about procedural knowledge, and we talked about metacognitive knowledge. And we know that if you have to assess all these dimensions of knowledge, you cannot go traditional. You cannot continue to operate along the traditional assessment mode. And so we are advocating for a different type of assessment, and you went through that during the asynchronous session. But one area that we want to focus on is how do we assess the 21st century skills? And you will realize that the 21st century skills fall mainly under metacognitive knowledge. And that is an area that we seem not to be assessing so well. And so we're calling upon all of us, let us move on 21st century skills. So 21st century skills emphasizes more on behavior, and written assessment is not adequate. You need to vary your assessment beyond written assessment so that you're able to capture what students can do, what they can say, and what they can make. And we're also saying that when you do that, you are actually being inclusive in your assessment. You're not only writing assessment that focus on a certain category of people, but you're now being inclusive so that even the different gender, if I may put it that way, or even different areas, such as people with maybe special needs, who really have to be included in our teaching, assessment, and learning, we are able to include them. And so it requires us to use a variety of assessment. And remember, if you are having your outcomes written in the 4 different areas that we talked about when we are handling the design session, that means for your assessment to be aligned to your learning outcomes. And this again came out very clearly in Professor Kahemba's presentation. He kept emphasizing alignment. And so in assessment, we're also saying if you are going to have assessment questions that are aligned to the learning outcomes, that are aligned to the methods that you have used, then you need to have focus on variations in your assessment, as well as looking at a possibility of assessing what people say. That's oral assessment. Assessing what they can make. That's a product that comes out, and you assess that, as well as what they can do. Next slide, please. And so we are saying one of the things that we need to have in mind if we are doing, if we are assessing the 21st century skills, is that we need to be very clear about the domain, about the behaviors that relates to the domain that we want to assess. Which is this 21st century skill that we want to assess? During the design session, we looked at the 4 C's. Is it the 4 C's? Is it communication? Is it collaboration? You need to be clear about that. It's only when you're clear about it and you actually have it in your curriculum and you use the methods that enable learners to actually get that skill, then you can assess it. And again, during the facilitation module, we went through different ways of actually facilitating learning to ensure that the learning outcomes as written are actually achieved. So once you're clear of that, then you come out with the tools. What would be the best tools to enable you capture those indicators, those skills that you've already identified in number 1 that I have just mentioned? And we need to recognize that these skills are complex. And if you're going to have only one way of doing it, it won't work. So you use assessment that capture complex skill set. And you also ensure that if it is modeling, if it's demonstration, then you also do it in a way that they are able to apply it to those situations. So you set your question in such a way that it enables modeling and demonstration and application within the situation that you are providing. So use assessment that resemble real life tasks. Use cases. They are very good. The scenarios that, you package a scenario so well, and then you raise questions that actually they will have to understand the scenario in order to be able to answer those questions. So those are the thing that we are saying, it's authentic assessment. Authentic assessment requires that you assess people using a real world kind of scenario, real world kind of situation or cases for that matter. Next slide, please. We did come across authentic assessment in our presentation. And here I'm just recapping it for us again to remind ourselves, just in case some of us went through it a few days ago and have forgotten. So an authentic task present activities that emulate professional practice. If it is cooking, let me give an example of cooking because I love to cook, I love to bake. If you're going to teach somebody how to bake a nice cake, for example, you're not going to say, get 1 cup of flour, get 1 cup of water, get the baking powder, and get the flavor that you want and put in it. You will give this person all that, but you are actually going to have this person do the baking, and then you're able to see that this person can bake. Of course, the first one may be badly baked cake, but it's a product that you're able to see. The physical context must reflect what the competencies will be in the professional field. The social processes must reflect. So all the replica of what happens in the world of work is what we need to bring in our assessment, especially if we want our learners to graduate and immediately be able to perform the things that are expected of them when they go to the world of work. And fourthly, the performance must mirror real life. It must permit inferences about the underlying construct, and of course, including multiple indicators. And number 5, the criteria identified. The criteria should identify what is value, and the standards indicate levels of expected performance, as in the world of work. And so we're calling upon us to try as much as possible to ensure that the assessment questions that we provide to our learners are authentic. They replicate the real world. And it's only when we do that, that we will be able to have students who are able to do the things that is expected of them when they go to the world of work. Next slide again. These are just examples that we've given. There are many other examples of 21st century skills, but we've just picked on those three, which are also very critical to those who employ the graduates from our institutions. For example, problem solving. How do we ensure that we are actually assessing problem solving skills of our learners? We need to set questions that require students to take different perspectives. I think time has come for us to move away from the fact that we want students to write answers that reflect what we said in the classroom. In fact, students will write answers that has nothing to do with what we've presented in the class, should be celebrated because they have thought through what we've taught and they've looked at it in different dimensions. And so we're saying, let these questions challenge students to explore multiple routes of problem solving. And so students will be able to iterate, they would be able to review, they will be able to hypothesize, and etc. and etc. In that way, they are able to build on their problem solving skills. Secondly, there's critical thinking. Again, a very key skill in the world of work and in society, because we go through very many challenges that need very fast thinking and somebody who is able to immediately get solutions to this. And so we're saying, how do we handle this? You can actually have students identify similarities, organize information, classify, categorize, and etc., or even represent concepts. Instead of writing that essay of 10 pages, can they present it to you in 1-page concept? Concept mapping comes in here. And if they can do that, that means they've actually understood the things that we've maybe taught, maybe 3 chapters in a reading that they've undertaken. They're able to reduce it to this little concept mapping of 1 page that is meaningful and speaks to what they have read. So we provide just alternatives here as examples, and this is not comprehensive in any way. There are many other ways that I'm sure you'll get from your own reading. Number 3 is collaboration, a very critical skill again. You know, these days, there are many times that you need to get somebody's help. You need to work as a team. Even in our online learning, by the way, we always need people. And that is why in this kind of training that we're going through, we have all the facilitators communicating to you on Zoom as I'm speaking. I can't do both at the same time. So there's a lot of collaboration and teamwork that is required now for us to accomplish the task that is expected of us. And so how do we handle it? Give them open-ended questions, but also give them questions that they cannot complete when they are alone, when they don't get support of another. So the questions should be phrased in such a way that it requires this particular person to look for another person to solve that problem. And when you do that, then there's no way we're going to encourage individualistic work as opposed to collaboration, if collaboration is the skill that we want to promote amongst our learners. Of course, there are lots of dynamics around group works. How do you ensure that they even participate? How do you ensure that the people who put their name there have actually done anything? So there are issues around that. I think I even read it from some of your posts, how you have been handling things to do with group work, you know, ensuring that nobody is selected and you select them as they come to the presentation room. In that way, everybody comes ready, everybody comes when they've read what is expected of them. Next slide. So before we just go to rubrics, because my colleague is going to come in to talk about rubrics, I just want to reiterate the things that have been going through the different modules, from design, to facilitation, and now assessment. One thing that is very key, and it came out, is that if we ensure that the assessment questions we set reflect the curriculum, then it is only when learning and teaching will be towards the same goal. That came out during the design. And I'm emphasizing it again. Let's have assessment that reflects the curriculum, because to the learner, the assessment is more important than the curriculum. But if the curriculum and assessment are speaking to each other, then learning and teaching will be for the same goal, and students and teachers will be aiming towards the same goal. I want to call upon my colleague, Raphael, to just take us through the rubrics. Raphael?
Thank you, Betty, for that good presentation. Colleagues, let me just talk about something in relation to what Betty has presented. I've been reading some works on online learning, and as we know, online learning can be lonely sometimes. There is a document which I think many of you have gone through, and if you haven't, I will encourage that you look for that document. CAST 2018 provides about 3 principles of online design, which is called universal design for learning. The first principle is multiple means of presentation. And therefore, when you are setting an assessment, an innovative assessment must provide multiple means of presentation. And you can check through what we have gone through, even online, and even today we are going to go through a number of innovative assessment tools that you can expose students so that they can have multiple way of presenting the assessment. The second principle is multiple means of engagement. You can engage students through writing, through demonstrating skills, and through expressing in different ways. And the last one is multiple means of expression and action. The reason why I'm going through this is that we are talking about 21st century learning skills, which requires us to assess complex skills. And therefore, you need to also learn about this. There is also a lot of literature about motivation, how to motivate students, and how to enable our students to be autonomous in a way of undertaking assessment. Some of the assessments that we have been giving have been very stressful to our students. And therefore, one of the best way and the innovative way that PedaL has been advocating is about assessment using Rubric. And this is what I wanted to present, and it is related to the third outcome, which has been read to us, designing the rubric. Now, you'll agree with me that we have actually been keeping assessment. I think this is the culture. I think most of us we have been doing very well, but some of us, we have been using assessment as a carrot and a stick, or we have been using assessment as a way of punishing our student. But now the 21st century learning demands that assessment is motivating to student, and it does not cause any stress. Rubric is one way of ensuring that the students all understand what you're going to assess, so that they can also adjust their learning towards the direction that you've made, you've actually made, given direction. And therefore, you must have explicit indicators for assessing certain outcomes that you want to assess. And this must be clear in the rubric. You also need to be very clear on the expectation of the assessment. The rubric actually gives this because there are certain standards you want to meet in a particular assessment. Say it's a project or whatever, you must express those expectations in the rubric. And when you do this, you find that students have a direction, a kind of a direction, and even you have a direction on what you expect from the student. You have to have, when you look at rubric and what I'm going to go through maybe in the next slide, the rubric is more descriptive than the checklist, and we will see this. Because the rubric helps a student to be able to guide another student, what we call peer learning. Self-evaluation can also be enhanced by rubric because students will look at what is being expected and whether they meet what is expected. And they can do all they can do to help to ensure that they meet the standards that are expressed in the rubric. So this is an assessment where we are telling students, this is the score you are going to get if you meet this standard. And it's like you're giving student a guideline to the assessment. Some of the things that when you talk about the traditional assessment, I don't think the traditional assessment can meet this. Next slide. So the rubric we are talking about has the first column, the rows, the titles of the rows is where we have the components to be assessed. And these components must be aligned to the learning outcome of that assessment. For example, if you want students to be able to develop a proposal, a research proposal, you can actually decide, you can come up with the areas that you want to see in that assessment. And these areas now will form the components that are going to be evaluated. Now, on the first row, the titles of the rows, the first row you can see from this diagram, from the table we have expert, competent, apprentices, and novice. This is what now we can call a criteria. And sometimes this criteria has some scores attached to this. And this is what now you're telling students that if the first component meets maybe the first criteria, then you are talking about what is expected. But towards the left, we have the novice. And the students, when they look at this, they will know that at this level, if I express myself to this level, then I can get this kind of score. Now, within this, we have cells. For example, we have identifies the problem. And then for you to be an expert, then your work must meet the criteria spelled out in the first cell, which says clearly describe the problem, including details and supporting information. So for you to score that, then your work must meet that criteria. So there's description that you have to attach to each and every criteria are spelled out in the boxes within that. Now, I've been using this, I've used the rubric before to assess the assignment given to the student. What I normally do is that I identify the 5 components, and then criteria that I have will be around 5 of them, with a score ranging the expert I can give 5, competent I give 4, Apprentices, I give 3, novice 2, and then another one, which I'll give 1. So that when a person meets all the criteria that is expected, or when you meet the expectation of the assignment, you are able to score 5 times 5, which is 25. So you can actually have a way of setting the criteria and the component so that the maximum score, if it's 100, then you ensure that the maximum score will be after you score the assignment, it goes up to 100%. And if it is 1, then the 1, when you score 1, then that's the least that you can score for that assignment. In short, what I'm saying is that when you share Rubric with the student, students are able to ensure that they score the highest score available for that assignment. And you can also ensure that you guide students towards performance. So it is now different from when we used to hide assessment and how you're going to score in the traditional way. Right now, we have to share with the students our expectation and what we require them to do to meet the highest score. If all students score 100%, that is the essence of the assessment. We don't have to reduce scores when students have met all what the rubric spells out for them. Next slide. Next slide is talking about the checklist. And the checklist is kind of, it's more functional and contains a list of essential targets and desired outcomes. And I want to say that checklist is more of qualitative, and sometimes we use it to assess formatively when the learning is going on. And sometimes we use it to encourage performance. For example, if you have a presentation, different students are presenting, you can actually have a checklist to help you maybe encourage and comment on the presentation as per every student. And the checklist has a number of items, which you, just like the rubric, it has like components that you want to comment on and encourage students as they continue presenting. I've seen these in the, we use this in the teaching practice, where we go with a checklist and we are able to, as students teach, we are able to guide them on certain elements as a way of, enhancing their performance. Previously, in the last session, we had micro teaching, and you realize that we were commenting on what you are teaching. And sometimes we will actually talk to you in terms of how did you introduce your micro teaching session? How did you engage the student? How did you end? You see, those are now the kind of the checklists that some of us we were using to listen to you and to be able to encourage you in terms of your micro teaching. Next slide. So in conclusion, I want to say that as we plan for assessment, let us keep in mind the 21st century skills the student need to acquire and apply in real life. Secondly, the different tasks like what we have been blogging, wikis, journal, discussion forums, you have been engaged in can all be used for assessment. All these can be used in assessment, and in a group discussion in this session, we are going to see how blogging, wikis, journals can be used for how you can use them to assess your students. So we are saying that This is now the multiple way you can present your assessment to the student as spelled out in the Universal Design for Learning. We also we have also given examples of assessment rubric, and this one I think you've also engaged in this, and you are also required to present your rubric for assessment. We just hope that you learn and you'll be able to be using this for the assessment and in future practice. So always remember, assessment is meant to measure and evaluate learning. And so it must be related to the learning outcomes. Just the way I've talked about the rubric, the components that you have for assessment must be aligned to the learning outcome for that assessment to be effective in terms of assessment for learning, assessment of learning, and many other. So with this, colleagues, I want to encourage that as we go through this session, and as we also engage further in the learning management system, we pick what we can use for assessment, and we make assessment more engaging, more lively, and more motivating to our students, so that students don't feel that assessment is punishment to them. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Raphael Nyonje and Dr. Betty Zati for that wonderful presentation. Now we are going into groups, and we have 10 groups. The group has between 7 and 8 participants. All right, between 7 and 8 participants. Now, it's important, we'll be there for 50 minutes. It's important that you keep your eye on time. And then each group will select a chair, someone to moderate the group, and someone to report back into this plenary session. So you will have a chance to share back what your discussions were in 3 minutes or less. Question 1 is specific to each group, and we encourage you to discuss it within 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whichever you find easy, but not more than 15 minutes in any case. Question 2 is common to all groups, and question 2 reads, I think I'll go to question 2 first. It reads, using one of the participants' e-portfolio, agree on key components to be assessed and criteria for assessment. Based on the key components, develop the rubric. Use the rubric to assess the e-portfolio on its effectiveness in assessment for learning. That's question 2. It is common to all groups. So not question 2. And then question 1 is common to all groups, and it reads, for question 1 is different, question 2. So I'll not go through all of them for the sake of time, but when you go to the groups, the resource persons will be able to guide you on which question you are going to be discussing on. So so these are the resource persons that will take you through the different groups. So group 1, you'll have Raphael, Eunice, and Harriet. Group 2, you'll have Natasha, Buki, and Susan. Group 3, you have Josephine, Bessie, and Olutayo. Group 4, you have Wanjira, Jeketule, and Patricia. Group 5, you have Haemba, Jared, and Brenda. Group 6, you have Balola, Esther, and Obosi. Group 7, you have Betty, Leah, and Martin. Group 8, you have Justine, Ayatola, and Remy. Group 9, you have Walimbwa, Ndidi, and Connie. And group 10, you have Jonyo, Haruna, and Sanet. So we'll be there for 50 minutes. We meet here shortly afterwards.
Simon, are you there?
I'm right here.
Great. So group one, for the most part, has like 70% resource persons. I was hoping that maybe you could push some people there.
I've done that.
Great. Zand, let me get back there.
I've pushed there some people. Hope they work.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Whoa. Brenda, can you speak?
Can we hear from Catherine?
Brenda?
Okay. We have
I've not unmuted you. Maybe if it's your mic that has issues.
maybe I go you.
Check your audio settings. Brenda, do you still have issues with your audio? I see you have unmuted yourself. I don't know why you can't. Go to the arrow next to the mic and check the settings there. Check that slider with numbers. Go to the arrow next to the mic, go to audio settings, make sure you have selected the right mic. If you have earphone, you have selected the right mic. And then where there is test the mic, test it if you can hear me. Speak again. Choose your mic. It's your settings. The arrow next to the next where you unmute yourself, there's an arrow. Make sure you have selected the right mic.
Simon?
That's better now.
You can hear me?
Yes, that's good. Now go to your group.
Okay. I have decided to use the earphones now. I think it's the computer.
Maybe this mic is not working. Okay, now do it.
Okay, let
Now
me
select
just.
your group now.
Okay, thanks.
Sheena, which group were you in? Sheena Boteng? Which group were you in? Or you're not in any group? Are you just joining? Sheena Boateng.
You have put the first question.
Sheena.
Okay, you are saying how do you effectively
Please join with audio. Click on the mic and say join with audio. Dr. Nancy Miles, were you here before or just joining?
I just joined. I just finished a long session.
No worries.
Live
I'm going to
session
send you to
here.
group
Okay.
3.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful.
And then I put in reflections, strategies that I'm yet to populate. Then I have the recording in progress. Or what should the student do in order to attain that excellence? Okay. So we say this is excellence. Then there's good, good, maybe average, okay. Yeah, I think that needs improvement. Right? Yeah. And those four now? Yes. But, yes. Okay. So now below the criteria, let's look for what are the things. We want to welcome a few other operators. Nancy, welcome.
Marie and Catherine, can I send you to a group?
Thank you very much. Thank you. You're welcome on the joiners.
Catherine, can I send you to a group? Marie?
Yes. Hello.
Yes.
Hello, me.
Yes, which group were you in, or are you just joining?
Yes. I'm just joining.
I'm going to send you to group 3.
Okay.
And Marie? Yes, Marie. Maybe it's not your name, but that's what you
I've
said.
just joined.
I'm going to send you to group 3.
Okay.
Al-Hassan? Al-Hassan Hussein? Al-Hassan Hussein?
Yes, yes.
Were you here before, or are you just joining?
You know, I was here before, but
Which group were you in?
Hello?
Which group were you in?
Actually, I had a problem with my line when we were about to just at the point of breaking through, so I couldn't get the number of my room. Yeah.
All right, no worries, no worries. I'll send you to one. And just give me a moment. I check which group needs more participants. And Emmanuel, there are 2 Emmanuels here. Emmanuel Adudanso and Emmanuel Asasi. I don't know.
Yes,
is the same person?
Yeah, thank you.
Which group
yeah,
are you
so
in?
Simon, I was part of a group. I spoke and then I was using my phone, so I had a call which was long and then I dropped off. So I didn't have the chance to look at which group. It was, I think it may have been one of the smallest groups because there were just 2 of us who were active.
I think it must be group 3. You are with Patricia, Bessie. Do you know the question you were discussing?
No, not with AC. Okay, so the first question I was responding to was my experience with using forums and wikis.
Yes, that's group 3. Yes, that's group 3. I'm sending you back there.
All right.
All right. Alassane, give me a moment. I get your group. Mkasaga? Mkasaga?
Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
I'm good. You're just joining. I'm going to send you to a group. Is that okay?
It's fine.
All right. Let me check a group where where there are few participants, and I'll send you there.
Okay. Thank you.
Give me a moment. Let's
These are all things which we all do, even that we do them in different ways. So it will not be recording in progress. Let's look at more. Recording in progress. One can see what they have done and then know the quality of students we may have. But now, I want, Chair. Yes, go on. I want to capture something here. We have seen the e-portfolio of our colleague, and we are being asked to make rubric to evaluate it. Is it something like that? Yeah, but you could have to do it. No. I'm saying that we have seen our colleagues' e-portfolio, and we are being asked to make a rubric for evaluating it. Is that what we are supposed to be doing? Yes, now we've seen it now, so now we're going to put both of the rubric. Yes, now the rubric. Can I say that what items are we going to evaluate? The first one, you were talking of the teacher's philosophy or something? Yes, your teaching philosophy. Why do you teach? Are you a constructivism, or why do you do things as